through or vault thundered towards me. I uttered the last of the potent syllables and dipped my mind into the warp. Not the shimmering warpscape of the Titan's mind link, but the true warp. Channeled by the rune staff and warded by the prayers that I had ritually intoned, I flowed into a vaster, darker void. I reached out across the fabric of space to Gudrun, far away, an entire subsector away, towards a private estate on the Insume headland. I reached into it. The secret obilette that had been vacuum sealed, warp damped, void shielded, and locked with 13 locks. Only I knew the codes to break down those barriers, for I had set them myself. It was crumpled in the middle of the floor, wrapped in chains. I woke it up. I set it free. I jerked out of my trance. The rune staff bucked in my hands as the unleashed demon energy flared through it. I fought to retain my grip and to enunciate precisely the words of command and the specific instructions. Like a small sun dawning, the enslaved demon poured out of the head of the rune staff. Its radiance lit up the dismal shore and cast a long shadow behind the Titan. Cherubael, I whispered. Yes. Kill it. Hey friends, it's me, the Ebony Otaku, the well-rounded nerd. Eisenhorn, Eisenhorn. I really love Eisenhorn. Too much? No such thing as too much. How about not enough? Not intense enough. So yeah, we're back in Eisenhorn, like I promised we would be. Fabius Bile is coming after my camping trip, and I get to read more of it. I've already read this like 15 times in my life, which is why I can turn to specific passages that I want to read, because I know where they are. Another, for those of you who have been noticing the quality of my books, yes, this is another well-loved book, the Omnibus. This guy came out in, where's the date on this? Black Library Publishing. Flippy. When did this come out? It's been a while, because this was a used book when it was handed to me. Oh, yeah. All of these had finished copywriting by 2004. Am I going to edit out my sneeze? No, because I'm a one-take kind of girl. But yeah, so yeah, this is quite old. 20 years at this point, which feels good to have them all in one space. But anyway, we're here to talk about Eisenhorn. So where we left off with Eisenhorn, we are having a discussion, some banter, conversation, not a versation. I chat, you comment. It's a great relationship we have going on. But the question we have before us that we're exploring, when or if, maybe not, did Eisenhorn become a heretic? You know, there's a few schools of thought out on that. If we remember our Eisenhorn history, when he was going through Inquisitor school, you know, back as a young lad, he came out of school a Puritan, meaning he held to the exact letter of imperial law. Everything was black and white to him. There was no in between. There were no shades of gray. You're either pro-imperium and emperor, or you're against him. And if you do anything other than what's prescribed in our holy text, then you're wrong. You're a heretic. And there are three orders of inquisitors. There is the Xenos, the Malleus, and the Hereticus. Our good friend Eisenhorn is a member of Ordos Xenos. He hunts the alien. And by doing so, he comes across many things in his travels. But one of the things he was always taught was you don't ever want to use the tools of the enemy. Because if you use their ways of combat, if you use their spells, if you dip into the scary parts of the warp, then you're no longer fighting the enemy, you are becoming them. It's kind of the same thing in some of the more recent wars that happened. If you study the history of the World War I, World War II, reaching back, the American Indian Wars, reaching back the French Revolution, let's go even further back. When you study war and how it takes place, there always seems to be one side that is worse than the other. This is not a political statement. We don't do that here. Okay. But just a human observation. There always seems to be a side that's less awful than the other side anytime war happens. And the side that's less awful, even if their methods aren't, they aren't perfect, but they're less bad than the other sides, what they don't want to do is fall into becoming just as bad as their enemy. Because then once you're doing the same techniques, whether it's torture or the pillaging and words I can't say of your enemy and that type of thing, then you're just like them. What's the point of even fighting if you're exactly the same? Who's right and wrong? How do you determine who's right and wrong if everybody's terrible? And that has been ingrained into Eisenhorn as an Inquisitor. Inquisitors stand for the side of the Imperium of Mankind. They are representatives of the Emperor of Mankind. They are there to keep law and order. They are judge, jury, and executioner all wrapped up in one. They have the right and ability to weed out anything that might interrupt, come against, disband the Imperium of Mankind. And they are told, we don't do what our enemies do. We don't call upon demons. We don't cast chaos spells. We don't make pacts with chaos gods. We don't do those things. Because if we use the tools of chaos and the warp and the Xenos and the heretic, then we become the very enemy that we're trying to defend against. But there's a slight flaw in that way of thinking. Because sometimes the enemy has a weapon or means that are so great that only the enemy's means can undo it. And that's what's happened here between Eisenhorn, his crew, and Cruor Volt. Cruor Volt is a chaos titan. We talked about the titans. Giant, sentient, moving robot things. Don't think Transformer. They're way bigger than that. And they're already huge compared to human scale. But the Mechanicum runs the whole Titan program. And just like a Space Marine can fall to chaos, so can a Titan. The reason being is a Titan isn't just a machine of war. It is sentient. It's a thing. Like, it's so hard to describe what the Titans are. Because when we think about, like, mechs and battle suits, we tend to go like the Gundam, the Razefon, tells you how old I am. We think about those things, where you take a person, put them in a mech suit. I would hearken the Titans and what they are to be closer to the mechs of Evangelion. The Evangelion mechs, the reason they had to be powered by that group of children, why they had children on standby to be pilots, is because the spirits of their loved ones past were imbued into those mechanisms. And it took someone who had a connection with them to control the Eva. That's why it had to be those specific kids. And if one of them quit working, well, just hang on. We're fighting the angels out there. Another parent's going to die, and then we'll have another kid who can go. Like, it's terrible. Like, if you didn't know that's what Evangelion's about, well, that's what it's about. I would hearken the Titans to be closer to Evas. And in the Titans, there's a princeps, a human who has the ability to connect with that Titan, like in Evangelion, it's the kids. They can connect with that Titan, and they literally form a relationship to where Titan and Princeps are one. There are smaller Titans that don't need a whole crew, where one person is in the Titan and controlling it, but Titans scale. And the ones that are that size and bigger, the ones that are Ava size, they have a whole crew in them. They have a bridge, they have decks, they got people in the feet, the arms, the knees, there's a staircase going up. It's a whole thing. The Princeps is somewhere up in the chest cavity or the head. That when the Titan gets hit, the Princeps is getting hit. The person controlling him, like they are one with each other. And because there is a spiritual humanoid component, a sentient component to the Titans, just like the humans that created the Titans, they can also fall to chaos. So what do? How do you prepare for a demon-possessed, building-size robot humanoid with planet-destroying weapons at its disposal coming at you and your friends? Your last pistol's not going to help you. Your little rifle's not going to help you. Your bolter is not going to help you. You have to fight demons with demons. It's kind of like with criminals who are then repurposed by law enforcement. So, good example, have you ever seen the Leonardo DiCaprio movie Catch Me If You Can? That was based on a real person. Obviously, they exaggerated some stuff for the sake of the movie. But Catch Me If You Can is about somebody who, as a young person, perpetrated a whole bunch of scams, got away with it, and then once he served his time and paid his debt to society, he gets hired by the acronyms up in Washington to teach them, well, hey, how did you do all this stuff? Help us catch the criminals. The best way to catch criminals is to use a criminal. You need somebody who thinks like them, because if you don't think that way, you don't think it's going to happen. It's like people who are surprised that there are bad people on the planet. You know why you're surprised? Because you're too good to think that way. Bless your heart. Good for you. But how do you prepare for the worst if you don't know what the worst actually could be, and you don't have something equal to that to combat it? And there's the rub. Would it have been more noble, more imperial for Eisenhorn and his companions to just take the L and that be their last day of breath? Or they're a good group of fighters, of warriors on the side of the Imperium of Man. They have one of the enemy's weapons at their disposal. Eisenhorn has a demon under his control. And the demons of the warp have unfathomable power. The kind of power that can take down a Titan possessed by chaos. The humans don't have that kind of power. A Chaos Titan versus an Imperium Titan, the Chaos Titan will win. Hands down, end up. It's gonna win. Because you can't stop crazy. You ever been in a fight with somebody who's drunk? You can't take them out because they're crazy. They done lost their minds. They have no idea they've been hit. That's what the Chaos Titans are. You can't take it out. It doesn't know it's been hit, even if you hit it with something the same size. So what do? How do you deal with an enemy so great if you're not willing to use the enemy's own weapons against the enemy? And that's what makes Eisenhorn such a juicy character. That's what makes his story so incredibly interesting. What side do you fall on? Do you fall on the side of Eisenhorn was right? He did what had to be done. Good on him for having the bravery to do it. Do you fall on the side on, nope, heretic, 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 heretic. You were never supposed to do the thing. You should choose death before falling to heresy. Or do you sit somewhere in the middle? Well, he did what he had to do, but was it the best decision to make? Because we get faced with those decisions all the time as humans. It's easy to sit as, an armchair pundit and say what one would have done in a particular scenario. Well, here's how I would have handled that. Here's what should have been done. Okay. Are you sure that's what you would have done? Because unless we're actually put in certain situations, most of us really don't know how we would react. We like to think that we're all brave and we're going to do the thing that's completely right. But humans don't know what they're made of until they're put in a situation where they have to test that. That's what makes Warhammer so intriguing. It's seeing people put in all kinds of scenarios and how they would react. Some people stay completely pure, others fall to corruption, and then there are those who are somewhere in the middle. I haven't decided where I am in the great Eisenhorn conversation, but let's see what happens next. Lightning crackled. A freak storm suddenly erupted over the lake, swirling the heavens and driving rain down in sheets, accompanied by fierce winds and catastrophic electrical displays. A ghastly white thing, moving so rapidly it could only be registered as an after image on the retina. It surged out of my staff and went straight into the black bulk of Cherubael. The Titan hesitated, mid-step, 1 foot raised. It shuddered. Its great arms flailed for a moment. Then its chrome skull face cracked, crazed and shattered, blowing out in a burst of sickly green light. Cherubael swayed, the rainstorm drenching off its creaking bulk. A halo of light lit up the lake shore and told the PDF base, Cherubael, ancient enemy of mankind, exploded from the waist up in a globe of furious white heat. Nothing of its head, torso, or arms survived the immolation. The legs, 1 foot still raised, tottered and swayed, and then collapsed, falling sideways like an avalanche and destroying the ruined remains of the station's dish. Cherubael was dead. Fade Thuring was dead. And I was unconscious, hurled back by the death blast. And that meant Cherubael was free. If it had fled then, it would have escaped. Indeed, it might have fled deep enough into the miasmic warp to evade me forever. Even if I exhausted what was left of my life trying to summon it back, it was wary of me now. It knew my tricks. Certainly, it might have escaped far enough to avoid my clutches for many years. And in that time, it would have cost the Imperium deeply. But it did not. The demon was too consumed by rancor for that. It came back to kill me. We're going to pause the reading there for now because the next bit I want to get to is quite long. So I'm real good at putting out a 40-minute video, but I really don't have time to do that today. I've got things to do. I've got a camping trip to get ready for. So we're going to leave it there, and we're going to pick up with Eisenhorn and Cherubael facing off with one another. Let's talk about it down in the comments. Where do you fall in the Eisenhorn conversation? Is he a heretic? Is he loyal? Did he just do what he had to do so he's somewhere in the middle? I love Warhammer lore so much. There's just so much of it. There's just so much of it. Apparently, I'm now a Warhammer and Transformers channel. There's other stuff I love, but hey, we're going to sacrifice to the algorithm gods as much as necessary. But I hope you enjoy hearing these stories and discussing them as much as I enjoy bringing them to you. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And on the next Warhammer Wednesday, we're going to pick up with Cherubael and Eisenhorn.